My whole positioning is we have to have accurate diagnosis before we can then intervene at the proper level.
So how long have you been on Substack?
3, 4 months, maybe. Well, that's a lie. I've been writing for 2-ish months now, maybe. I've been reading for 2 years, 3 years, whenever Substack was like first a thing. So
Okay.
there are some folks, like people who seem to be in your orbit who I'm newer to, but then there's folks who have like quite a amassed following that I feel like I've followed for a few years, but I didn't get my own act together and start my stuff until recently.
Yeah, but that's great. I mean, like, and how new is your entrepreneurship work with the, well, it doesn't look new. I mean, judging based off the website, it looks very
Yeah.
established. Like, how new is that?
I started building that out last fall, and then I left my marketing job in Broadway world last year. No, this year. March, but I was doing both at the same time for quite a while. And I was doing my clinical work for the last 3 years alongside also doing my executive job. So I've been holding a lot, and I was my own case study in burnout.
Whoa. Okay, so back up. So looking at your background, you have an educational background as a therapist, right?
hmm Yep.
Okay, cool. And then tell us about Hamilton. What's the connection to Hamilton?
Yes. So my first master's degree is in arts management. I got a business degree, went straight out of undergrad, went and did my residency at the Public Theater, just like happened to be there at the right time, but it was before we even knew what it was. So I remember interviewing and they were like, yeah, we're working on this thing. It's the guy who wrote like In the Heights, something about Alexander Hamilton mixtape. It's probably going to be pretty weird. And I remember being like, this is strange, but okay. And that was the launch of my marketing career. So that was really the start of my 13 years in
Damn.
executive leadership. Yeah, it was. I joke with people, like I peaked very early.
I mean, like right place, right time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like right place, right time, sure. But also, what was it like having, so you had your master's in arts management, right? Master's in arts
Yep.
management.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So, and then you land yourself on the Hamilton team.
Yeah. And again, like we didn't know what we had. So as cool as it was to be in that room and know that I was working for I was a theater kid, like the organization that did like hair and chorus line. And I'm working with these big names, like Lin-Manuel was sitting in those rooms. So I knew it was important, but it's one of those things you don't know you're in a cultural moment until the moment has cascaded and passed, right? Like I remember us sitting there and being excited that we hit $100,000 in ticket sales, like
Wow. Yeah.
$100,000.
Yeah.
So looking back now, I can certainly see it for what it was. But in the moment, I had no idea that right place, right time. And it actually wasn't where I wanted to do my residency. I wanted to be at Disney Theatricals. It just
Mhm.
didn't work out. So
Yeah, and what's it like riding the wave, not knowing how big the wave you're on is? Like it sounds kind of
yeah,
surreal. It sounds like,
yeah,
looking back, you're like, okay, we don't really know how big this thing is, but we're in it, and it
yeah.
obviously it's big kudos to you for sticking on it, for however many years.
I mean, I can't take all the credit. I was a graduate resident, so I wasn't making decisions, but I got to be there seeing the decisions be made. And like, I feel
Hmm.
like that was where I was forged in the fire a little bit. You
Hmm.
know, sales went well, obviously. And a lot of the conversations we had about marketing and positioning happened after the show had started. Like, that's the cool thing about doing off Broadway. And before making that move is we were still getting to reiterate positioning all the time. So like I wrote a few weeks ago about the photos, right? We started with this set of photos that felt very stoic and we loved them, but they weren't reflective of what the show actually was. And it was the first time I felt like I could name there's this gap between if we sell you one thing, even if the show is fantastic, if we sell you one thing and you experience another, right? There's this gap between what we intend and what the impact is. And that is a betrayal of trust for audiences. Same thing with clients or employees. So a lot of things got seeded very early on. I think the first time I realized like, oh, this is a big deal was either the day I had to tell Tom Hanks's assistant no, they couldn't have more tickets. He was bartering for tickets. He ended up actually like recording our first few radio spots because he desperately wanted more tickets in a small 500-seat off-Broadway house. There's not many. Or it was the day that I was sitting in front of me was Christine Baranski and behind me were the Cheneys. And I thought, well, at least I'm better than Dick Cheney because I saw the show like 6 times while we still had it in public. So it were those moments where I was like, oh, something's happening here. But it really doesn't compound until later.
Yeah, I don't even think being in the moment, I'd probably realize a lot of, what's going on and the significance until,
Yeah.
you say that and you're like, oh,
Like, oh, I'm better than
yeah,
the Cheneys. Well,
right.
and it was really cool because, like, not every off-Broadway show is going to go to Broadway. So I'm sure your listeners love the intricacies of like Broadway theater. But the point
I do.
being,
Spill the tea.
why would you not? The idea here, right, that there is a certain season by which you may or may not move a show from off-Broadway to Broadway, depending on whether or not you want to tee yourself up to win Tonys. And if you move too early, you don't have enough momentum, blah, blah, blah. All of this to say, there was a real push to actually close at the public earlier than we had intended and to move to Broadway. And it was going to be a whole debacle because we'd have to like honor ticket holders and refund people. This was, over a decade ago now. Technology was not as advanced. At the same time, it was that conversation of like, well, we have the momentum, now is the time. I think anybody who's like trying to ship something knows that feeling of like, we have to move while strike while the iron is hot. So we ended up holding this big press conference and we like brought all of the leadership in. We had Lin-Manuel. I have like this visual of him standing up on the bar. The public has like a bar right in the lobby. And truly up until that moment, like, I think only 4 or 5 people knew what was going to happen. Like, I'm sure my boss knew whether or not they were making the move, but the other 20 of us in the marketing department didn't know. So again, it's those moments where you're thinking to yourself, like, this is a bigger thing and it could go either way. And I'm just happy to be here and see what happens.
I mean, it's a lesson in strategy.
Yeah.
Right. And there are people who go work at startups and the startup goes big and it becomes a unicorn and it does really well. And through that, people learned what success looks like. And then they end up leaving and going about their merry way and usually doing something else and translating that success elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that in a way that's we're not, that I think most people wouldn't normally look at and be like, oh, the cast of, the people who made Hamilton.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's a unicorn startup of its own, right? I mean, that's what I'm learning.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact too that like they had the wherewithal to bet on themselves in that moment, because to have made the move early would essentially be saying like, hey, we need the momentum to get the wins and the Tonys and this and that we think we're going to do. But to bet on yourself and say, no, I believe that we have enough here to ride this out, to make a transfer. Like they moved to Broadway in August, which is the deadest time of the year to open a Broadway show. I think it instilled in me very early too. They were also tending to their customers because as marketers, we were thinking a lot about if we have to cancel all of these tickets for the off-Broadway run and try to move people, what is that going to do to customer relationships? We at the public, we're a nonprofit. So that got instilled in me very early. And when I made the move to corporate theater later, which is a different animal, it was hard for me to separate the idea of, but what's best for the product? What's best for the consumer?
I love that. Okay, so tell us about that transition. When you went, when we got Corporate Ashley and
Corporate Broadway Ashley.
Yeah, Corporate Broadway Ashley. What was that transition like? What motivated it? Was it a slow and kind of smooth buildup? Was there a fiery moment?
Yeah, all of the above. Sure that my friends and family and therapists were all very tired of hearing me talk about it because, like I said, I juggled both for a really long time. I went back to school for my second master's to become a therapist during COVID, and I didn't even know if I was going to like do the due diligence to not just get the degree, but get the license, right? Because it's a whole process. So it was a long time before I made a decision, but it was one of those things where when I stepped back, I was like, oh, the choice points I'm making are clearly showing that I am moving in a certain direction, whether or not I want to label that as I have put my stake in the ground and made a decision about making this change. But I went back to school during COVID because I didn't know what the future of the arts would look like. And I always thought I'd be a good therapist. And I thought it would be a nice way to take my interest in understanding how behavior change is made and apply it to individual interactions. So wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with it. Discovered I really loved it. Juggled both for a while and thought, oh, I'm seeing the same thing during the day when I'm triaging these budgets and, trying to decide if we're selling enough tickets fast enough and as when I sit in the therapist chair later that evening, because I was pulling all-nighters for clients. I would see a 6 p.m., a 7 p.m., an 8 p.m. client across from somebody who was equally a high achiever and go, oh, they're experiencing this thing that I already know in my nervous system. And now I have clinical language to put to it. And so at that point, it's almost like you can't unlearn what you know. And I couldn't keep doing both because I have a toddler and I care about my health. And I had to make the call. But the point of doing the work I'm doing around diagnosing structural burnout is still getting to have a foot in both worlds.
Okay, first of all, damn, I respect the hustle.
Thanks.
Yeah, doing a full job and then coming home and having to be like, or going to another office and having to be emotionally available for people. What's that like? That sounds tough.
Do you want the polished answer or the real
No,
answer?
give it to us real.
Oh, well, the real answer is I was also getting a divorce in the middle of all of it while parenting like a very tiny human. So
Okay.
it was not great.
Let's zoom out. Let's zoom out. Let's look at this process because this is obviously a defining moment in who you became, right? You started business, arts, you still love the arts, and then we're finding that you really love, being there for people in different ways. There's a ton of similarities between the two, and then we get to where you are now, which is probably like the latter half of the episode. But let's go back to that like messy, like was it a 2-year stretch, 1-year stretch? I know. I want to talk. I think it's interesting. I really think it's cool. If you're cool with it, can we talk about it?
I'm so here for it.
Okay, cool.
It was okay. So I started seeing clients, I think it was about 2 years that I was juggling both. Yeah, because my daughter is 3.5 now. So I don't know what I intended. Like looking back, I don't know how long I thought I was going to be able to do it all. I just knew that I felt like I didn't have another choice because I was a single income household. I was paying for a divorce, which is expensive. And like, you can't just leave a job in the middle of that because it looks a certain way and means a certain thing. And like, I'm trying to co-parent well. I genuinely cared about the work I was doing, and I still do in that Broadway capacity because I started up in New York. I made my way to DC. I was a VP of marketing there, eventually moved down to Richmond by having pitched the company, Nederlanders, which are the producing organization. Hey, I know you've got tours coming in and out of this area. I want to move to this area and I want to be your marketing person on the ground for these markets. So I had built this job and they had actually then based the way they modeled the rest of it upon this regional model. And so I felt like a real level of personal investment because it wasn't just this happens to be I live in the market that I'm working for. Like, no, I had asked for this and I had iterated over and over again within this company and built up to this point. So as much as it was a logistical challenge of how am I going to pay for things and put food on the table because like, spoiler alert, being a therapist does not make it rain. I mean, it does in some scenarios, but in general, it's not super great. We can talk about the inequities there later if you'd like. But all of this to say that it was really for me more about the identity transition. And so to be in that space of feeling so deeply burned out because burnout is a relational process and it really was a relational result from the way the systems had been built. And there's no fault of like the organization I was with. It's just the way the industry was, and then internal expectations, they cascade down, they become introject. And because I could name it as a clinician, can't unsee it, you hit this crucible of like, I know this is about identity work. And more than that, I know this is like trauma work. I'm a trauma therapist. And whether or not we would label something a capital T trauma, the brain receives it in a traumatic manner. It's storing it in the nervous system like that. So I found it so activating to think about even divesting myself from that identity. That's a very windy ADHD 7 p.m. answer, but there's
No,
some
this
good stuff
story
in there.
rocks, dude. I mean, I think it's very cool that you're working in burnout now, because I think you of all people really understand what burnout is, right? And I think you've lived it. And it also is very apparent that you're on a mission to help show people that there's a better way, and that you're a builder, right? And
Yeah.
that you like to build things that last. And then you feel attached to them, and you're like, oh, I don't, no, don't take it. This is mine.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
you know, it, I think it's really great. And so, what are some of the things that you love about being a therapist? Because it's not
Mm,
about the money, but it's something that, like,
yeah.
you've stumbled upon. And I think, earlier you said, well, I went back to school to COVID during COVID times because the future of the arts wasn't certain. And then you were like, okay, I've got an inkling. Was it really that you just thought that you might be good at it, or was there something more there that was driving it?
No, it really was. Like, quite honestly, I had taken AP Psych, and I had always been really interested in how does the mind work and
Cool.
why do we make the decisions we do. That's what I liked about marketing. I never liked I have to try to figure out how to sell you something. It felt icky, but if I could frame it as how do I get inside somebody else's brain and understand what's going to make them move down that funnel, right? From like awareness to consideration to conversion. We do the same thing with behavior change. It was just seeing it from the other side. And selfishly, the part of me that went, I'm doing something I love, it's mission driven, and I want to be even more impactful. Because the cool thing, that's what I love. I love that I can leave a day like today feeling like I'm on a high because I had clients who we got their SUDS scores, their significant units of distress, down from a 10 to a 0 today, right? Like that traumatic memory is no longer pinging the way it did when they walked in the door. That's not me. That's a process I was able to help facilitate, but love that it feels meaningful to me with this bigger ripple effect that may be a way that like putting butts in seats, that's what we used to call it, does not.
That's super badass. I love it.
I try.
So what for you now, obviously the work that you're doing as a clinician is clinician the right word?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. The work that because it sounds cool.
I feel cool. And I'm like, and I write in
Yeah.
my notes to clinician intervention. No, 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 no.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It
So,
was cool.
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Just a little cool check there.
We did it.
All right. Yeah. So, what's like the hard part about this for you now? I mean, obviously there's this sense of I get to be there for people and I get to have this
Yeah.
change. And that's extremely impactful. You go home and you feel like, okay, I helped this person, which is extremely important. What's the hard part for you
Yeah.
now?
Twofold. One, I think I really underestimated how much of my own relational bandwidth it would take, because you said it right earlier. Like, you have to show up and be emotionally available. Like, my job is to hold the frame, right? I tell people I am there to hold a mirror up and reflect back. And it means that I have to be constantly attuned to your nervous system. And if I find myself wandering, I have to come back. And then I do that for up to 8 hours a day. A lot of therapists will tap themselves out after like 4 or 5 clients a day. I have a variety of reasons for why my schedule gets compacted, but I basically see like 3 full days of clients. So today I saw 8 clients because that's the way the schedule worked. And it's trauma. So ADHD brain, out of sight, out of mind helps. I don't bring it as much home in the forefront, but it's living in my nervous system. And it makes me less apt to want to hang out after work with a friend. It's made like dating again pretty hard. It's actually one of the reasons I organized my schedule the way I did, because I didn't want to see clients on the days I have my daughter after school or in the evenings, because then I wouldn't be emotionally present and available for her. So it has a ripple effect on my own well-being. And then the other thing that comes to mind is the adage of don't work harder than the client. You really, as the therapist, want the best for your client. And I think as a organizational advisor or strategist or consultant or whomever, it's the same thing. but they have to be willing to show up and do their part of the work, because in a therapy room, I see you for 1 hour a week, maybe two. I see some people two times a week, but you're living all this life in between, and you've actually got to like do and practice the behavior change that we're just talking about. Because otherwise you're coming in and it's just talk. So monitoring for myself, I'm emotionally invested and emotionally present, but the success of whether or not somebody is seeing progress is not actually saying anything about me or my ability, because I can't make them change. I'm holding the frame, I'm holding the space, holding up the mirror to reflect.
The classic curse that effort yields efficacy.
If only.
Darn. I know.
I know.
I think so. Along this, you started your venture back
Yeah.
in February, you said. So we're closing in on a year, more rapidly than any of us want to admit. Tell us what sparked you starting that.
Yeah, I had started ideating on it again, like while I was still juggling all of the things, because part of
I'm sensing
I
a
don't
pattern
want.
here.
Yeah, then you get it. I
Just
have too
joke.
much, too many things all the time, and it's funny. Like I did some AI prompt the other day. I was like, "What else can I do with my interactive, intersection of skill sets?" And it gave me like 100 ideas. And I went, "You know
Were
what?
any of them
I
good?
can't. Oh, some of them were terrible. It's like I can't read this right now because I'm going to
Yeah,
think that 12 of them are great, and I have to do them tomorrow."
totally.
So
Isn't
to the
it funny though that when we're at the end of our rope and we're at capacity, we hit these breakthroughs of, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be over here doing this, or this is what's important to me.
the weeks where you see me write on Substack more or like comment more, I'm actively avoiding writing my clinical notes. Like you can tell how I'm avoiding doing other work. Clients get seen, but do the notes get written? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to your point, like it was actually while I was doing the juggling of both that I said I have to do something, not just being a therapist. Not that not just being a therapist is great, but I have this really interesting intersection to offer. And I sat on boards. I taught nonprofit management for years. I love what I know about working in organizational spaces and bringing that systems and patterns view. And so to me, it was a really natural next step of I want to see clients. I could see 20, 30, 40 clients a week and feel awful, or I could have a more sustainable caseload and get to build something that's really exciting to me on the other side. And from there, it kind of very naturally became, how do I take my clinical diagnostic lens and apply it to this topic that, as you say, I have lived and know so well. So it happened organically, but for a reason, in that I was trying to fill a specific hole in my life. And by that, asking, what is my unique intersection of skills going to afford me to be able to do? And I'm still figuring it out every day.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the website, like I said earlier, it looks established. It's going well,
Thanks.
and
Still
so
trying.
is that true that it's going well?
Yeah,
It
100%.
looks like it's going well.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be critical. And I think that, as we'll get into a
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
sorry, bubbly water. Like, I'm really big on Spindrift. Are you a bubbly water person?
I do like bubbly water. I feel like this is a sales pitch for Spindrift, so I'm not Spindrifting today, but
Oh yeah,
I do
yeah.
like
We're not sponsored, but
We can be. Spindrift, reach out, pay Dan
right.
thousands of dollars
Come on,
right now.
Spindrift. Yeah, emotional intelligence, leadership. It's definitely brand right for you.
We could probably make a pitch. I could figure something out.
Yeah, EQ. It's worth the squeeze.
Ooh, I like it.
So
You sure you're not a marketer?
no, I'm the worst marketer. I'm so bad. Yeah, no, not at all. I want to know where I was going with that question is what's the dream? Like, what's the dream? What's your dream with this?
So build this framework. The series that I have been publishing very slowly on Substack is delving into what I call the maladaptive organizational copy process. But really, it's taking a clinical framework that's based in relational neuroscience and applying it to, we know burnout is a systems issue. No one's really yet sat down and mapped, okay, but how is that relational dynamic? Because it is relational, it's in the definition. How is that relational dynamic actually perpetuating? And so I reached out to the gentleman who now like fosters this lens, comes from a place called structural analysis of social behavior, and said, I want to use it in a corporate setting. He said, that's incredible. that sounds like a great application. Nobody's doing that yet. This is really ripe. I went, ooh, this is my lane. So I'm writing a white paper. I'm hoping it'll be done in the next month, but who really knows? Because again, toddler. The dream is for that to have legs in a whole bunch of different directions. So I would like for there to be used in an evidence-based way, right? I'm hoping to get some of his grad students on board or get other people to help me figure out how we can best take this diagnostic framework and understand how we then apply it in an intervention way. Because my whole positioning is we have to have accurate diagnosis before we can then intervene at the proper level. So I would like for the research itself to have legs and for there to be like a level of academic contribution to the space, but I also want it to be actually usable in an organizational space because it's really easy for me to throw around clinical terms and for people's like eyes to glaze over. So I see myself as the translator. And I want to be bringing that to leadership teams. And my hope is that I'm getting to a point where people are paying me the big bucks to come and give the speaking engagements on it. But I also want to sit in a room and go, okay, let's actually map what is the relational dynamic happening. It's not group therapy for your organization, but it is taking that pattern recognition skill of my job is to sit here and pull all of it together and then actually facilitate that happening in real time in an ongoing way.
Okay, so if I'm understanding it right, in order to fix the right problem, okay, we know burnout's a system issue. Burnout affects the people, but the lanes between them and the interconnections are not well known. And so so we need to map those better. And then if we do a proper diagnosis of the organization, then we can start to fix the burnout at the personal level.
Exactly. Because right now, the problem that's happening is we are intervening at a symptom level. So when we are saying like, hey, we need to foster more EQ, right? And which again, like, I'm not saying these are not good things to have. I don't want anybody to be like, Ashley says there shouldn't be wellness programming. Like, no.
Yeah. Did you just say we're not supposed to have EQ in the workplace? Hold up.
No, you didn't let me finish my sentence.
Yeah.
So what the problem is we're treating that like the only answer, right? It is right now functioning as a Band-Aid because we are trying to solve a systemic issue with individual challenges. EQ applied at a systems level is essentially what I'm asking for. If we are able to diagnose, okay, the way that this dynamic of we intend to reward this behavior, but we're actually able to map it all the way down to we're really rewarding this behavior. If we go back and figure out where that started, then we know we can intervene at the top before it cascades. And it's often not like it didn't start with one bad leader, right? It is something that builds up over time. So my plan and my hope is to build this out in a way where part of what I'm mapping is how entire organizations and industries are relating to each other. I think about the charitable sector has introjected this belief about self that we're scrappy, we should be able to get by. And I think different versions of maladaptive lines of positioning about the sector perpetuate in those ways because, again, it says something about us. And then we build systems and policies that align with that then eventually cascade towards the individual.
And then we end up with everybody in the charitable sector burnt out.
Yeah, because we just got to try harder. Because if you care, you're really going to try.
Yeah, and mission can only carry you so far.
It's true.
Okay, so I think that's a great dream, by the way.
Gimme.
I think that's a really cool dream. Yeah, that's really awesome. I think this should grow, and I would definitely love to learn more about this because I think in my own rudimentary wormholes of burnout, I think we all land, if we go deep enough down, we're like, oh, it's a systems problem.
Yeah.
Right. And then we start thinking about, okay, but what systems are we actually changing and how does that help the behavior besides just taking sweeping changes across the systems and then hoping that we'll get the end result that we want?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, if we keep fixing it good enough, then we're done and it'll solve the problem if we try and fix everything versus a more targeted approach. This is really great. Yeah, this is cool.
I hope so, because the diagnosis is going to be different for every organization, right? What's perpetuating in one place is not what's perpetuating in another. And 30 different organizations all saying, we're a family here. that shows up in 30 different ways, right? In terms of how the employees feel it or how they synthesize it. But you're nodding and laughing because it's a pattern we all can relate to. Like there's enough similarities that we can do something like diagnosis.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We're a family and a pizza party away from not having burnt out employees.
God, it's just the worst. And
No.
I think I come back to like, it's funny. My mom has been my really early reader on stuff because lovely woman who has spent a lot of her life in corporate spaces and does a really good job of like talking the talk and masking. And so she can, in a way that, I try to look at it through this lens of how is this actually going to land with like corporate leadership are going to go, okay, this is bullshit, right? Like I'm sure you feel that in the EQ space too sometimes. I remember her being like, you cannot villainize the organization or they will not bite on this at all. It's like, oh, my intention is never to villainize the organization because 99% of the time, this is not intentional. Like, it's not that you're intending to have the best culture ever, but it's not intentional when there's this byproduct, and often the byproduct is the burnout.
Yeah, a weird song and dance we play. And I don't know how much, you tap dance around your marketing, but I made the decision early on. I was like, I can't put empathy on the homepage.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not putting empathy as a keyword on the homepage, even though that's exactly what I want people to learn how to do. Particularly people with technical backgrounds who are in high consequence industries. Like it's all about teaching them empathy. But if I lead with empathy, they're going to be like, well, what hard skill are you teaching us during this training? Like, what do you mean?
Actually, this is the hardest skill you can learn.
that is the hard skill. That's why none of us are done learning it yet.
It's literally where the ROI is, but okay, go off.
I know.
Have to be,
totally.
I know. How do you position this? I don't know. How do you position this in a way that feels palatable? And I'm like really sensitive to the fact that this can come across as like super naive, right? Like, oh, what a pipe dream. Ashley thinks we can all just get along and then there won't be burnout, right?
Right. But yeah, I get it.
I would actually like argue that comes from a place of assuming that we can't change systems. Like if we come at it from a place of like, well, nothing's ever going to change. That's just the way it works. I love the cattail happening, by the way. I'm very here for it.
This is Fox. This is my cat. This is my co-host Fox.
Love it. Leo is down here and he will not let me pick him up, but he is allowed in the room. The kitten is not. Hi, Fox. So yeah, I don't know. The point being like, yes, it is a song and dance. And the people who are going to get it are going to get it immediately, right? Like I was so super chuffed to get on Substack and be like, people here get it. This is awesome. And we can all iterate this together. And if it's not for you, it's probably because the system has like deeply introjected into you that things can't change or you can't make change. Or you have to live with things a certain way they are. I want to also be very like respectful of the context. Like we cannot, I'm a privileged white lady. Like there are lives and contexts of which I know nothing about. And people, many of my clients and others like live in contexts that I can't. We have to hold for like, sometimes shit just sucks, right? What can you control? What is your level of personal agency in any given interaction? Whether that's I'm an individual employee or I'm all the way up at the top or I'm designing a system that might perpetuate over time.
Yeah. I think a period on that one from me. And I think I want to talk a little bit about burnout. I know this entire episode has almost been about burnout. If we zoom out, if we squint, it's all burnout. But I think earlier, and this is, I pulled a couple of the philosophies that I could find on your Substack. And in one of them, you talked about people who care the most burn out the fastest.
Yeah.
Unpack that for us. What do you mean?
I mean, speaks for itself, Dan. I have nothing else to say on the matter.
I'm just going to add a period on that, Dan.
Done. I
mean, fair.
It makes sense though, right? Like, and I see it sitting in the therapist chair because people genuinely care. And that's why I go back to like the organization's not a villain. You don't have to be in the charitable sector, pardon me, or like a mission driven organization. I actually have like recently been like, I gotta call this high stakes work as opposed to mission driven. Cause like, again, back to positioning, people aren't going to see themselves in it.
Yeah.
If you care about what you're doing, you are more apt to run yourself ragged trying to do it, which means you are more susceptible to introjecting learned behaviors.
Yeah.
So when I talk about introjection, relational behaviors can get copied and they can get copy pasted like one to one. Like I saw you doing a certain thing, and so I'm showing up in the exact same way. They can get recapitulated. Like I used to respond to a significant other like this. So now with any other significance in my life, I respond like this. Or I took the way somebody treated me and turned it inside and now I treat myself that way. And my argument is that eventually, no matter how many times these patterns cascade, it's going to end up in A, interject and an employee. I'm not saying this is the way all burnout shows up, but it is the way much of what we see traditionally as burnout has perpetuated in traditional workspaces. And they take advantage of folks who are more apt to make that internal point back itself move.
Yeah. So based off of how other people have treated us or the behaviors that we've learned over time, what we're saying is that all of this kind of mal experience leads back to our self identity, which then
Mm-hmm.
becomes someone's employee experience working with or under
Yes.
us.
Yes. You're doing a better job of explaining it than I am. So
No, I'm just trying to
you
put
can
it in
come right to me.
caveman terms.
You are. And that is where I'm hoping to go with all this, right? Is
Yeah.
like, how do we get it to a point where you can't refute the logic of it?
It makes perfect sense to me. And I think, like, what's your plan for breaking the cycle? You know, like, how do we do that? Because that's something that I wonder about
Yeah.
too, right? You find the people who are like, hey, empathy is not a hard skill. You know, you find the people who are maybe thinking the burnout is their employees' problem, you know, and they just need like some
Yeah.
unlimited yoga memberships for the
Yeah.
team. And then, like, what do you know, like, how do
Yeah.
we, and a pizza
I
party, like,
mean,
how do we break the cycle?
I think for the people who it's harder to sell to, right? You're going to have to show the real ROI. So, like, did that pizza party actually move the needle? Like, for every pizza party you held this year, did your turnover reduce? You know, like, I think there will become a point where we have to start actually running the metrics on whether or not these individual interventions, right, are able to move the needle on the grand scale of things year to year, season to season. I think that's part of it. Measurement and then having the understanding that like cultural shifts are happening as generations age out of the workplace will be part of it. I think a lot about my grandfather was a career military man and then in the NSA for 30 years and like super cool dude, very smart, was always on the cutting edge of technology. He would have loved AI. Like not in a weird way, but in a like he bought a 3D TV before everybody else did because he thought it was going to be cool. And like he wanted to know what the next thing was, right? So there are people who are willing to do it, but he was also extremely entrenched in what the cultural norm was at the time. And for his generation of you pick one career and you stick to it and you have a system and you honor the system and you stay this way. And that's not because of anything wrong that he did or didn't know. I'm not saying he was wrong and I'm right, but like things were entrenched and things are moving faster now. And some things that were entrenched are going to naturally kind of cycle out of the cultural conversation. I think that'll be the other part of how we actually make this change.
Do you think he would have used like Claude, ChatGPT, or was he like a Gemini guy?
I think probably Gemini because it was a Microsoft guy, but I think Claude would have felt a little too artsy for him. Like he would have
Okay.
seen like the spinning animal and been like, this isn't for me. He would want something like to the point. My guess would be Gemini.
Okay, good. I'm glad we established that. I
Yeah, it's
think,
important.
yeah, generational shifts is something that's really interesting because the younger generations really seem to be a lot more in tune, right? And to seem
Yeah.
to understand the concepts and benefits of therapy and also emotional intelligence in ways that I think
Yeah.
a lot of us have had to learn, and have it be a learned behavior. So I am excited for that in the workplace.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not the buy and hold type for a career. You know, right? Like I think
I don't
we're
think they
seeing a
can
lot more
be at this
mobility.
point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like, I truly don't think that's where we're headed as a society.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, but yes, to your point, like we've also normalized therapy and mental health, and that's going to play a role in what people expect. You know, I was watching some I don't do TikTok, but some TikTok that ended up on LinkedIn, I think, of like a Gen Zer who was like, oh, your salary is 90,000. Actually, my requirements for this role are 200,000, and like not batting an eye about it. Again, if we go back to like what's normative, because if we're working at a systems level, we're really asking what's normative. We're going to have the potential to change some of these norms, but just by showing up again and again and saying like, oh, that's not acceptable, right?
Right.
Like 90,000 for this role is not acceptable.
Yeah, which is bold. And if you asked people from, different industries or different generations what they would think about that advice, they'd be like, yeah, don't ever say that. You're going to lose the job. Right. But it somehow works these days, which is outstanding, because I think it's great that, we're like you said, normalizing new behaviors and in particular self-value, which is good.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, oh, sorry, go for it.
No, you go. No.
No. You're the guest.
It's the ADHD of my brain going like, and this thing, Dan, there's another thing too.
We're gonna be here forever.
We're gonna be here all night. Pull up a chair.
I'm here for it. I love it.
So here for it. It's great when we're like, oh, the Substack report. Like, okay, good. It tracks in real life. So it makes me think about this idea, and I must have encountered this like in the arts field, I don't know, 15 years ago now, of we're moving into a place across all industries where you either are going to become the behemoth or you are going to be super niched down and responsive and able to right the ship in real time. And there's really not going to be a lot of room for this in between. Like the organizations, the people who find themselves in this kind of middle gray space are going to naturally have to go one way or the other. Like it's that K-shaped economy of it all. And I think that's happening here too. Like people are going to either go with empathy and bringing a more diagnostic framework to burnout to the workplace, or they're not. And we can't be speaking to everybody, but the people we are speaking to are going to be the other end of that K-shape. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So K-shaped, not cake-shaped.
That'd be cool. I would love for it to be cake shaped. And also, like, I hate, like, the K-shape thing. I'm trying to make a band. Because, like, it anticipates, like, part of us are going down. But, like, let's decide that you and I are on the up part.
Yeah, it's like a... Yeah. It's like a Roman numeral 5, but without the hat.
Yes. There you go. Beautiful. You are a marketer.
But a fancy Roman numeral 5, not just a V. Like a serif.
Is it bad to say that after about, like, 20, I can't read Roman numerals much at that point? I have to Google every year, like, what year Super Bowl are we in? Because, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It also, like, doesn't matter to me. So
yeah. That's pretty funny. Dude, that would be really funny to, like, look at that Google trend throughout the year. That'd be, like, some fun search data.
Yeah, ooh, I would want to know that for sure. 100%.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question. So... As a therapist, clinician, and someone who's been, a high level executive leader, better than most what it looks like to like co-regulate a stressed out team during crisis, and like how to lead all that, right?
Yeah, the hope. Okay,
so 2 parts to this question. First part, what did what I just said mean in different terms? And two.
You did it perfectly.
Well, because I kind of know, but like I don't think I really know, and maybe someone listening to this doesn't have the jargon for it, which I don't want to gatekeep. And second of all, like how would we learn how to do this skill for people who don't have a therapy background?
Yep. Okay, so when we're saying co-regulate, what we really mean is you are a body and I'm a body. We are 2 primates in relation to one another. And when bodies come into relation with another, God, that sounds like really sexual. Sorry. I'm going to start over.
No, keep going. This is good. You're getting to the best part.
2 monkeys walk into a room and they're really asking like, who is this interaction about? Is it about you, me, or my relationship with myself? Is this a hostile or a friendly interaction? And are we together or apart? Are we on the same team? And with that information, we assess it very quickly. We assess it with our nervous systems because all of the research shows body language reaches our brains and our bodies way before what we say does. So when we're talking about co-regulation, we are asking about how we're showing up in relationship to another person or to a system or a process or an organization. And understanding, does that make me feel safe as a animal creature that, started from bottom up processing, right? In my nervous system, do I feel like I am in fight or flight mode? Do I feel like I'm in freeze or fawn mode? Or do I feel within a window of tolerance where I could respond kind of in as my best possible self? So I'm hopeful that that's enough of translating, because you're like, which is perfect. How would a leader co-regulate for their team, or understand that the way you show up and model is the way your team is going to respond? I was using the example of, if I walked into this podcast and I was like, and like more amped up than I already am, right? My energy is going to affect your energy, and you'd be able to get me down by bringing your energy down. Same in both contexts. So hopefully that's enough of the primer. There's something in my eye. My other part is, how do we teach people? The first thing that came to my mind was being honest. So, as a clinician, we are taught to use our own nervous systems as a diagnostic tool and to co-regulate for others to model and hold the space appropriately. So, for example, when I'm doing trauma work with somebody and they're in the middle of reprocessing and we're doing NDR and they're doing their eyes, I'm in my nervous system going, do I feel activated right now? And if I feel a shift in the tension, I can generally sense, oh, that probably came because the client experienced a shift in their safety. So I'm reading my own nervous system to read theirs. And being honest comes from that place of like, I just said, hold on, there's something in my eye, and took a minute, right? Still kind of there, as opposed to pretending I'm fine and also doing this the whole time. Like, being honest is, label it what you will. Some people are going to call it intuitive, but that word gets a bad rap. You know in your nervous system whether or not something makes you feel safe. So model that behavior and create a space where others are going to feel that way too. This is the 101 of parenting. I have to regulate myself and sit in a space of, she's having a hard time. She's not giving me a hard time when my 3-year-old is like throwing stuff, which is hella hard to do because it's dysregulating to be around, but also to frame it as, this is my job and this is the way I want, not only how I want to model with her, but how I best want to show up. Back to EQ is the skill. It is the hard skill, right? Like, it is the hardest thing to do, to regulate yourself, to make sure you regulate yourself first so others can regulate off of you. I don't know if any of that is useful, but
Totally useful.
that's
Extremely
what comes to
useful.
mind. Tell people there's something in your eye and go from there.
Yeah. Well, I think we have this vision in our head of when there's an emergency, and then there's the stone cold leader who just like
Yeah.
has the right answer.
Yep.
And then we put pressure
Yeah.
on ourselves to be that person, even though it's not training. They got there by being
Yeah.
able to self-regulate, by being able to slow down and be calm. And becoming the calming presence is an experience, or I guess it could be experience, but in most cases it's probably not experience. It's
Yeah.
actually being a skilled regulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I think too, I remember when I first started seeing clients being really in my head about like, I don't have the correct calm therapist persona. Like, I
Yeah.
am not a Zen, and having a few different supervisors be like, no, actually, that's the gift. Like, the role is to show up as you are. Freud believed in blank slate, and psychoanalysis believes in blank slate. Relational science tells us it's useful to an extent, but we are relational creatures whose brains are literally being developed because of interactions we're having with others. So your brain and body register in authenticity. And so a leader doing their best work is not just going to always be calm. Sometimes they're going to be able to say to the room, yeah, this is really kind of scary. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, and normalize that, because that's what the room needs to hear in that moment, as opposed to like, it's all going to be fine. Yeah.
Totally. And I think I didn't really realize how much therapists use their own nervous system as like a ruler and diagnostic tool for other people's nervous
Yeah.
system. And that seems like really trippy, because if
Yeah.
someone else is like feeling incredibly anxious, and then your body's picking up on their anxiety, and then you're starting to feel anxious, you have to be like, I'm not anxious. I'm just feeling anxious because I'm listening to an anxious person, and that's making me anxious. So that's how
Yep.
they're feeling. That's
Yes,
wild.
it is. And you have to do that double work of like, is this making me anxious because of the content or because of the process? So like the process would be because they're anxious and I'm picking up on their anxiety. The content could be, am I anxious because they're talking about a topic that one time I had a bad interaction with somebody that felt the same way and now I'm thinking about that, which is what we would call countertransference. So you have to do the double diagnosis of like, is this about me or is this about the way my nervous system's showing up? Like it gets real meta, real trippy.
How do you do that while still like them feeling like you're listening and having like a follow-up question?
I believe that ADHD is my superpower because I can have 20 different things happening. Like I never feel more on in an ADHD capacity than when I'm like working with a client because I'm specifically being asked to attend to 20 different things. I'm attending to what they're saying. I'm thinking about what they said last session and the session before and the overall
Yeah.
pattern and what kind of intervention are we going to go next? And if we go that way, is it going to go like this or this? And also I can hear the fan in the background. I have to tune that out. I'm noticing my own countertransference. I'm noticing my nervous system. And I'm doing all of that at the same time, which I'm sure feels wild to neurotypical brains. But for me, that's like a Tuesday. So that's how I don't know what else to tell you.
No, yeah.
It's,
I mean, I think being neurodivergent is such a gift, and
yeah,
what a gift to be able to like do to feel stimulated doing multiple things at once.
yeah,
You know, for it to feel right. You know, one of the reasons why I
yeah.
love audiobooks and I love Audible is that I
Sponsored by
can do
Audible.
that. Yeah, Audible, emotion. Come on, emotional
Reach
intelligence.
out. Ugh,
Yeah,
you know
Spindrift.
Bezos needs it.
Come on. Yeah. Come on. Bezos. Anyways, what a gift, first of all. Second of all, good thing or bad thing that people can get pseudotherapy from AI. What's your hot take on
So
this?
my hot take is it's never going, maybe this is like me being full of myself. It's never going to replace me because it can't, at least now, the way we know it and see it, hold that nervous system regulation, right? It could probably do the pattern recognition and say the right thing and assess a pattern that you brought up 8 sessions ago, maybe even better than I could. But it can't sit in a body that feels, God, back to like this weird, the body's feeling the body, that feels the energy in a room, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
So I have clients use it. I've used it for like right now, I'm using it to assess my own mood tracking patterns because I don't like any of the mood tracking apps that are out there. And I want to know if I have PMDD or not. And is that affecting how my Vyvanse works? So it's interesting to have something in a more neutral capacity reflect back to you what it's actually hearing you say and patterns and recall. That's the job of a attuned therapist. I don't think there is a problem with people using it for it. My problem becomes when people are using it to such an extent that it is feeding their own anxiety or behavior loops, right? Like for my clients, I work with a lot of folks with OCD because OCD and trauma overlap quite a bit. It's probably not a great tool for them because it's perpetuating some of those. I need to scratch the itch intellectually. I need to get reassurance. I get reassurance and it perpetuates.
Walk us through
It's
an
really
example
hard.
of what that would look like with AI, for someone
Yeah.
who, you know, is maybe using it and they're stuck in just a general loop.
Yeah. Like, think about like relationship patterns, right? So if
Okay.
you are anxiously attached and you need to know constantly if you're anxiously attached, you're asking, am I okay? Are we okay? I can't be okay unless you're okay, right? So you might turn to ChatGPT and say, here is a screenshot of a text message I had with my partner. You know, what do you think of the tone? The way you might with a friend, right? Or you might unpack an exchange that happened. AI is going to hopefully reflect back to you at least more accurately what the dynamic is. But it's less about, oh, they told you that you were right, and more about they scratch the itch of, I just need someone to talk to me about this thing. Like that's the loop of, I'm anxious about this thing. I need some level of reassurance that I'm doing it right or showing up right or I read this right. And so regardless of what AI's feedback was, the fact that somebody can always give you feedback immediately is more of the
Mm,
problem than anything.
dang. Yeah, because I guess okay, so it doesn't even matter what ChatGPT would say on the
Right.
text. It just
Right.
it just matters that I have that instantly available in my pocket to go do that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I'm thinking of all the times that I've done that.
And I do it too. And
No.
again, like, I think where it becomes a problem, right, is like we all have to kind of self-regulate our own behavior. And like,
Yeah.
it's really big to ask somebody to notice, especially someone who finds themselves in certain looping behaviors. Like, is this perpetuating a pattern that I actually would, at, at its core, rather, maybe not rather have it be perpetuated, but it wouldn't be better for me for this pattern to perpetuate.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Okay, that's a pretty good take. I didn't know any of that. So that's awesome. Okay, so I've got just a couple more questions for you.
Do it.
If I sent you someone and I was like, Ashley, this is a leader who needs to learn how to emotionally intelligent, and and you were going to train this person, like,
Yeah.
what would be your training regiment for them? What would you have them do?
Ooh,
What would you have them read? How would you get them to like teach emotional intel to be able to do emotional intelligence in the workplace?
yeah. I love this. I'm going to go somewhere you're either going to love or hate. You're probably going to love it. I would start with existentialism. So I really believe the guy who brought existentialism to the field of therapy is my crush. The man is like 94 years old. I'm obsessed with him. His name is Irv Yalom.
Slay.
And Slay, or Irv, you're the best. I named my fish after him, Irv the beta. He,
Excellent.
oh, he's great. I could tell you a million Irv Yalom stories.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of this to say, he really believes that like existentialism is a lens as opposed to it is a kind of therapy I do. Like, no, it is the way through which we interact with humans through the world because there are these givens. We are all creatures with the ability and the impetus to make meaning, right? Where there is no meaning, the inevitability of death, the real lived reality of isolation. We can never fully experience another's unique intersection of perspectives. And then the freedom and the terror of the freedom that comes with that, the onus. So if we hold all of those as givens, I think there's real power in naming that whether or not we, as leaders, as people in the world, recognize we are being driven by these factors. They're there whether we like it or not. So I educate a lot of my clients in our early days, and I would do the same in a leadership capacity, that these are constantly programs running in the background of your animal brain, whether or not they're running in your conscious prefrontal cortex. Whether or not someone is able to perform empathy on command, their body and their brain are still pulling it from, like, it's in there somewhere, right? So I tend to start a lot of my work from I'm going to tell you the neuroscience of the thing because you can't argue with neuroscience of the thing. And that's probably where I'd start from the leadership capacity. And I have a feeling you would as well, which is why, again, I go to like, hey, here's how patterns generally show up. And here's like the irrefutable, these are universal dynamics across all human systems and interactions. And if you know all of these things are true, let's talk about times, I go solution focused, where it you felt you had a positive interaction. Okay, how exactly did you do that? What worked about it? What might you learn from that next time? What might get in the way of you doing that next time, right? Where is some potential friction? How do we account for that before we get there? How do we kind of prime the pump so that your brain is more apt to take the route we want it to take when you get there? I just covered like 12 different therapeutic modalities in 30 seconds. I am so sorry.
No, I think it's great. I think it's a good training plan. And then my follow up question to that would be like, what does the homework look like? What are you asking them to go do with people? Like when, manager person goes to work and they're like, okay, I know about existentialism and I know about,
This sounds like terrible
no, this
curriculum.
is
I'm
good.
so
I
sorry.
think it's great. I think it's really great. Well, just saying that, I mean, like, I think on a slide, it looks different than how we, tell
That
people
is
it looks.
correct. Yes.
So like it looks
Um,
different. It looks a lot more fun in a PowerPoint slide deck.
yes. Let's all think about death. Like,
Looks different in a spreadsheet. I think like I think it's something that I think about a lot. Like, how would I actually have someone go train? And I
Yeah.
think of what we do as kind of like, okay, we're showing someone the gym, we're showing them the weights, we're showing them
Mm,
what good form looks like. We're saying,
yeah.
hey, don't lift with your back on a
Yeah.
deadlift or something. But like,
Yeah.
they still have to go do it. Like they still have to go
Yeah.
do it. And this is true for any skill, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do the reps look like? You know what I mean?
I think the overarching homework is get out of your head and into your body, reps or otherwise, because if you're in your brain, you're constantly trying to analyze the interaction or the relational patterns or the emotion as opposed to feeling it. And so I actually had a client last week. She's like, how do I sit with a feeling? Because therapists say sit with a feeling a lot. Like, what does that even mean? I'm going to write a Substack article about it. The homework would be to constantly ask yourself at any given moment, like, how in my body am I? Am I cognitively thinking about the fact that I feel angry, or am I allowing myself to feel the anger? Most folks are in the first category and not the second category because it doesn't feel safe to let yourself feel the feeling because you don't know how to regulate it. No one's ever taught you how to do it and never taught you how to ride the wave. So for me, I think the homework would be a combination of teaching people the tools and skills and the beats of actually like feeling a feeling and riding the wave, the coping that comes around that. I would want them to build their co-regulation skills, and I would want them to do that in ways like, can you as a senior leader go shadow your front desk person for a day? And your job is to say nothing the whole day, or your job is to only ask questions of how does this get done, right? Like, again, shadowing is not a new concept, but any exercise that's going to build perspective taking, not just cognitive empathy, but actually I've walked in those shoes or I've felt it, is going to help with
Okay,
the
that's
homework.
epic advice. This is really good. Okay, final three questions. Are you ready?
Go for it. I love this.
Okay,
Do this all night.
nice. Don't tempt me.
I'm here. I mean, like, again, like, it's like late at night and my hair's falling out, but like, here we are. Let's go. I'm taking the hair down, so it's getting serious now. All
Okay,
right.
last these are
Yeah,
these are the last three questions. This is good. I got a dog. I've got a very important dog walk after this.
I get it. I have a kitten who is screaming at me from the other side of the door, in case you can't tell.
Yeah. What's the kitten's name again?
Sebastian, he's the worst.
Oh
He's
yeah.
also the best. He lets my toddler manhandle him.
Oh
His other name, his name might have been Flounder if I had let her have her druthers, but Sebastian.
yeah. Both are good names. I like Sebastian. Sebastian's a good name. And gentle with toddlers. That's great. That's like
It's
particularly wise for a kitten.
wild. He's earning his keep around here because otherwise the climbing of the curtains and the eating of all my plants is not doing it. But the
Yeah.
gentle, sweet 8-year-old gray boy here is allowed to be here. So
Nice.
anyway, I
Okay, good.
digress. Cats. Everybody wants to hear about cats.
I love cats are good. And I think my animals help me ride the emotional wave.
100%.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
totally. Like if I'm about to go feel some feelings, I'm gonna be on the
Yeah.
couch.
Yeah.
You know, dog on either side of me, cat
Yeah.
behind. Like we're in this together.
They are the masters of co-regulating. They're not thinking about anything other than what's happening right now, and they're just sitting with it.
Yeah, you know how like they always like are like, well, if your dog's anxious, that's because you're anxious. And I'm always like, no, that can't be. But like their nervous
I think
systems
they
do
can
the
have
same
their
things with
own.
us. Or do you
Yeah,
think?
but also like I
Okay,
don't think like they're not just responsive creatures. Like they could be anxious for their own issues, right? Like we had a massive thunderstorm here last night, and every
yeah,
client who walked into my office today was like, "Let me tell you about how my dog handled it."
okay,
So
yeah, all right,
it's yeah, maybe it's
yeah.
about you, Dan. Only sometimes though.
Yeah. I it's all about me. Everything is about me. Not
How could it
everything's
not
about
be?
you and your anxiety, Dan. I think like half of my Substack posts probably mention my anxiety at least once or twice.
Who are you if you're not being yourself? Like,
This is what authenticity looks like. Take notes,
yes,
readers.
100%. Let's do it, guys.
Yeah, I actually really hate authenticity as like a verb that like leaders are supposed to aspire to. Like I'm
Yeah,
totally on the same page that like people can pick up on authenticity
yeah,
and that by learning to be authentic, you can also build trust. And that by being yourself, people can you can be a better co-regulator. But I also think that like it's a total just like dumbass card that we hand people, and we're like, yeah, show up to work and just be like a privileged douchebag. But if you call it authenticity, it's cool. Like
Yes.
Brad's being himself. Like this is Brad's being
No,
authentic.
no. Brad's being a dick. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it is you're totally right. I'm really glad you're like pushing back on that because
yeah.
it gets used as an excuse to just like say whatever the hell you want, and that's not what it is.
I mean, I we can't have enough dialogue on authenticity and what it means and the narratives that we're telling people. Because
Yeah.
I think people out there believe that leadership is masking my fear, in an uncomfortable situation instead
Yeah.
of learning how to live with it and be authentically afraid in front of other people and still be like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm freaking out too, but it's going to be all right. That's a
Yeah.
totally different response than masking it all, and which people are totally going to see through that and feel right through that, right?
Yeah,
So,
100%. And they're not going to trust you because how could you ever be okay with that, right? Like, even if somehow you were able to get your nervous system to like read for other people, like,
yeah,
I'm totally cool with this, right? Like, you're probably like way dissociating. And if you're not picking up on the vibes the rest of us are and that like everything is burning, then I can't trust you because you're clearly not with it, you know? Like, it
yeah,
goes in so many different ways.
yeah, yeah, yep. And yeah, so I will always not like the word authenticity.
It's a good, we should come up with a better, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, feel like,
And we have to,
like on my real G shit or something, like on, like that would,
I'm doing me. I think that like, too, this goes back to we have to create spaces where people feel like they can be authentic. Like, I think you did a post recently about like authenticity is a privilege, for lack of a better word.
yeah, yeah,
Like, it is often not safe to show up as yourself. And like the way I'm even showing up with you here or how I am with my clients is not how I showed up in a corporate workspace for most of my career because it wouldn't fly. And that was exhausting for me. And so if we want to address burnout, we have to like make spaces safe enough for people to have needs and have those needs be met. And then for leaders to do the same things.
yeah. Okay, so I have four questions left. The first
Love it.
is,
I think we went from having
oh
three
yeah,
questions left to having four. I'm so,
I added one. I
I'm
added
gonna,
one.
I'm here,
I
but I'm
added
gonna
a
close my
question.
curtains so people don't like stare at me from outside. All right,
No, that's okay. I
let's do
I
this.
added one. Is that cool? I added one.
That, again, I have nowhere to be. You're good. My daughter's at
All
her
right,
dad's
sweet.
house tonight. We could do this all
I
night.
think it's a good question. The question is, and this is the one I just added, is for employees out there who are starting to feel burnt out or they're in burnout, what do they do? What should they do like right
What
now?
do help? I think it is a case of managing your own expectations for yourself. So back to our conversation about like the people who care the most are the most likely to burn out. If you care quite a bit, most people are not realizing that's the route they're headed until they're kind of actively in it, right? So understanding that it is not a function of your willpower or I did not try hard enough, and that thus the answer is not, and I should keep trying harder, right? Is the first thing that I want people to know. I have a lot of therapy clients who walk into the room and they're like, well, my goal is to never be anxious, or my goal is to never be uncomfortable with emotions. I'm like, those are great goals. They're also not realistic because being a human means sometimes your brain is going to serve up anxiety or it's going to be uncomfortable, saying uncomfortable things. Likewise, your goal can't be, I'm going to outperform burnout. Like, you can't do it. So manage for yourself. Okay, if I recalibrate my expectations for myself, what agency do I have? Personal agency, locus of control in this setting. If you are a level employee who feels like you can't make much change, okay, maybe you can't literally change the systems you're in, but maybe you can start to show up just a tad bit differently and see, like, if I give 98% as opposed to 100%, what happens? Does it really fall apart the way I think it's going to fall apart? And like gently figuring out where you can show up with like most viable product, right? As opposed to, or minimum, I should say minimum viable product as opposed to most viable product. And it's that question of like, is this where you want to sink all of your energy into? So people who are feeling burned out, the solution is often like, I need to stop feeling burned out. I need to perform my way out of this or find another situation or figure it out. And doing things, the additive is not the answer. The answer is going to be actually like letting yourself recalibrate and come back and building identity outside of work. Because if it's an introject process, then really like it has impacted your identity.
What's like the last thing people normally give up that should usually be like the first thing? You
Ooh.
know? Do you have tabs on this?
I mean, do I live it? Yes. I think like, I don't know, I think a lot, especially lately about like, I think people need to give up on things they can't, just give up on the things you can't control.
Yeah.
But like, truly, I think we assume it's not so much like I assume I can make you do a certain thing. It's that a part of my brain believes that if I show up a certain way, that's going to influence the income or the outcome, right?
Yeah.
Like, so being really authentic with yourself, or honest with yourself, I should say, about like how little control I actually have gives me some freedom. You asked for homework earlier. I thought about the book 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman. And he talks a lot about like, the way we vote with our time. Like audit your calendar. What should people give up? Well, your calendar is actually going to tell you, is it aligned with the kind of person you really want to be? Like every decision you make, every action, every behavior, the way you're internally positioning yourself and choosing to relate to something is a choice. And it's either a vote for the kind of person you want to be or the opposite direction. And sometimes they're both towards moves. It's just one that more is towards than the other.
Yeah. I'll ditch all meetings that don't have agendas. I'll tell you right now. Like if your
Yeah.
name isn't in the agenda block, don't go.
I,
That's my
yeah. Yeah.
anyways.
It's so interesting you say that because I think I even saw that on your notes earlier and I went, I could never because it immediately in my nervous system registers as like, I'm going to get yelled at, right? And if I really sat and like dug at it, I could probably tell you the 6 times that was true or times in childhood that I dropped the ball or somebody else dropped the ball and I saw them drop the ball. Like it's hard to know where the line is, hence the need for diagnosis, but don't go to meetings with their names on the agenda. Like,
I did, and
you
when
know
they
what?
ask and they're
Actually,
like, "Hey, where were you, Dan?" I'm like, "Oh, your meeting didn't have an agenda, so I didn't go. Sorry."
that don't go to meetings that don't have an agenda, period. It's wild to me how
Right.
many meetings don't have an agenda. Or I'll ask like, hey,
Yeah.
what's the agenda for this meeting? And they'll be like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, then we're not having a meeting. Like, if you don't
Yeah.
know what we're talking about, we're not having a meeting.
I love it. I love it. Okay. First time employee, their first day of work ever is tomorrow.
Oh, poor
This
guy.
is like their yeah, I know. It's like exciting but also heartbreaking. In an exciting it is definitely exciting. Come join us. We promise it's not that bad kind of way. The first day of work's tomorrow. What's your advice for them?
I used to say first day is the hardest because, like, I would get really nervous for my first days. And after the first day, like, at least you know where the bathroom is and, like, you have a general sense of, like, the office vibes. Talk less, listen more, really. Like, just you can be a sponge. You don't have to make a big change in the first 20 minutes. Like, your job on that first day is to calibrate and to understand and to read the nervous system of the organization. Your job is not to come in and like make a name for yourself. And I don't mean that in a shitty, like you can't show up and be yourself and be authentic kind of way, but more in like if you are truly trying to join with a team. I was talking to a client this morning who's like a sports person, so I'm not a sports person, but was talking about the importance of like teams feeling like there are emotional stakes together and emotional togetherness. Like I think a way to do that is to listen and to ask really good questions.
Hell yeah. Listen, ask good questions. That's solid advice. Find the bathroom. Also
Figure
a
out like
hidden
do people eat lunch at their
golden
desk?
nugget.
Do they leave?
Yeah.
It used to stress me out so much.
Yeah. Dude, one of life's greatest pleasures is working at a place big enough that there's like some hidden bathrooms, and like having like a good like hidden bathroom.
Or like a
I know.
solo stall or like we
Yeah.
didn't even talk about the job I had where the bathroom was over top of my office and then flooded onto my desk. So talk about a recipe for burnout, but there's a
Whoa.
metaphor in there somewhere.
Whoa.
just going to drop that one and be like, okay, bye.
Yeah. Period. No, I'm just kidding.
That's,
I'm just kidding.
I needed you to know
Yeah.
that. I needed you to know that.
Yeah. I think all the listeners need to know that happened.
Yeah.
And we are authentically making space in a co-regulating kind of way for you, you know?
It was traumatic, I say, as a trauma therapist. And it also gave me an excuse to be like, I do not need to work until 10 p.m. every night for a job that does not care that there is sewage on my desk. Like,
so it happened after hours.
Yeah, actually, I was not there, thankfully. Like,
okay.
Somebody came in the next morning and like told, because we had basement offices, there's no windows. It felt like being in jail.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But I'm back to like my favorite line ever. You knew what you signed up for when you worked at a historic theater. Da, 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 da. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a disgusting
It's not sewage on my desk, let me tell
issue. Yeah. It's historical. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
and you knew it going into it. So really, you should just be grateful that we're even paying you a paycheck to be here.
That's right. We're preserving history. You get to work in this building.
You are bringing the arts to a lot of people. You care a lot.
There's something about a dungeon office, though, that I really love, because not having windows, having just like a little, like, even if it's not that comfortable, just having a spot. And sometimes I work with like chainsaw earmuffs on, like shooting earmuffs.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Neurodivergence. But
love it.
I've had some of like my best, what I would call my best, or maybe it's not my best, but I don't know. It's just like the focus, like the lack of
you're in your space.
Distraction. Yeah.
My favorite thing about that office was that, like, because we were underground, when they would like blast something at the quarry a few miles away, you would like feel it reverberate all the way through the sheetrock. You'd be like trying to do something at your desk, like oh, it's happening again. But to your point, like I cared about that job so much, and I loved that job so much. It was like my first real leadership role. Right. And like running a whole marketing department, like I would go in on weekends or after hours or get there early and have that whole little basement cave to myself and feel so focused. And then I would emerge into the light like hours later and be like, what day is it?
Yeah, exactly. Like not going outside and not knowing what the weather is. Not like knowing what to anticipate. It's kind of a disorienting feeling. So
100%. There's 4 questions left.
I know. We got 2 questions. We're getting there. Okay, for middle managers, people who are solidly in the middle, and I always think of these people, like they could be individual contributors too, I suppose, but like people with people above them and below them. What's your advice for them?
Influence both up and down as much as you can. So you'll probably feel like you have more influence down, and you're probably right about that, right? What you can model and expectations you can set for your team, and allow your team to lean on you. And without sacrificing yourself at the altar, you can be kind of like the filter through which you decide, can I tend to this without making it upper management's problem or needing to be an upper management problem? Like, you have some agency there to be a system and a force of change. And then you have the obligation to manage up and advocate for your team and their needs from an emotionally intelligent place. And your job is not to absorb all of the crap, literal sewage or otherwise. Your job is to be the Sev. I never know how you say it. Like, I think it's Sev. I don't fucking know. By which information is going up or down, right? And like, don't let yourself be the bottleneck by virtue of it's easier for me to hold all of the trauma. It's easier for my nervous system to do the regulation that the system is not prepared to absorb, because then you're part of the problem.
Yeah. And I think in middle management, you get, you obviously get hit from both ends, and it's a recipe for burnout, because then you're regulating down and you're regulating up. Managing up is particularly difficult. You got any tips on managing up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like when have I successfully managed up? I think it is the times in which I was able to be myself and be a person. Like, the person who you are managing up to is a person too, and they have theoretically like people that they love and things that they care about, and not in a like bullshit, let's shoot the shit kind of way, but like authentically connecting, like, I am a human and I see you're human. Being able to own your own humanity as a model for managing up gives them space and permission to be human too.
I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. We made it. Last
We're
question.
here.
I know. Dude, I
It
know.
better be the best question.
Yeah. Well, it's a continuation of the other three. So I don't know if it's the best. It also statistically applies to the least amount of people. But it's kind of a fun one to think about. So for C-suite, exec, VPs, owners, founders, people at the top, what's your advice for them?
Yeah. Be willing to hear feedback about the gap between what you intend and what your impact actually is. Because you, again, back to org is not the villain. Like, you probably have really great intentions and you're juggling a shit ton. And like, look, I've had to sit in that chair where I've had to make decisions that are going to up the ROI here, but aren't going to feel good for the consumer here, and are going to feel like this internally. Like, I know you're balancing all of the things. Own what your intent is in all of that. Like, I had to balance these things, and in doing so, the balance I'm trying to achieve is this, and then be willing to hear and receive feedback of whether or not there's literally cat hair just falling everywhere. Whether or not I intended it, how was it actually received? How did employees synthesize it? Just because I say the decision feels like this or is meant to balance these things, is that actually how it ends up feeling to the people on the receiving end of it? And that could be your customers, it could be your employees, it could be even yourself, right? I intend to create a culture of this, that, and the other, but are you experiencing that culture? Are you experiencing a culture where it feels okay to voice these things, or are you internalizing it? So like, really being willing to take a good hard look at your own gaps.
Favorite road trip snack?
Combos, like the pretzels with the cheese on the inside.
Dope. It's a good
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, they are good.
Favorite
I
road
only
trip music?
ever,
Oh,
I
sorry.
mean, it's musical theater. It's musical
Yeah.
theater. Like,
What's
how
like
could
your
it
go-to? Like,
not
what's like your
be?
go-to?
I'm a Sondheim girly. So,
Okay.
like, Stephen Sondheim is the best, which
Nice.
again is, I'm so sorry that we're going down this theater nerd road,
No,
but
I think it's
also
cool.
like,
Yeah.
now my 3-year-old Purple Rain is her new favorite song. So like, I do listen to other things. Like,
Nice.
Prince is your other option.
That's great.
Prince and
Yeah.
combos. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. Go-to karaoke song?
Me and Bobby McGee.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your
If
go-to karaoke song?
me,
Yeah. You can't,
I've never been
I
asked
just
that
asked the
question
question.
before. I
Find out
think
next when Ashley hosts her podcast.
okay, so I've got two songs on deck.
Mm-hmm.
One I think is ZZ Top. Shark
Mm-hmm.
ZZ Top, Shark Dressed
Mm-hmm.
Man. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then I've
Yes.
got a Celine Dion song prep too. Yeah.
What Celine Dion
Yeah.
song? I love Celine Dion.
I think it's one of the ones from the Titanic.
Well, she only sings one song from Titanic, so it must be My
That
Heart Will
one.
Go
Yeah,
On.
it's that one. Yeah, My Heart
I
Will Go On. Yeah.
I hope you know that there is a parody Titanic musical starring Celine Dion as a character called
Really?
Titanic, and I am
Titanic?
sponsored by Titanic on Broadway now. Yes,
Dude,
I'm
that's
not joking.
outstanding. Okay, I'm gonna go if the dogs will let me, I'm gonna pull up some YouTube on the walk.
It's hysterical. Yeah, it's very
Okay.
funny. Like,
So before we go,
mhm.
we've talked about a lot of really good stuff. Where can people find you? Website, Substack,
Yes, all the
all that
things.
stuff.
Meaninginpractice.com. So that's
Okay.
where you can find out about, that's where I'll be releasing the white paper. That's where you find out about like taking me and bringing me in to do keynoting. That is where the link to my intent impact diagnostic lives, which is a free 10-question tool that if you want to know if your organization is structurally producing burnout or the conditions for burnout, it'll give you a pretty quick answer. And I think whether or not you're leading a team, it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
They can also find me at Substack. Imagine that. Me and my handful of lovely, lovely followers. I'm posting roughly weekly. And then I
Yeah.
am like occasionally on LinkedIn, but I really hate it. So
Okay.
just ignore that part.
If someone wanted to like, hit you up, where's the best spot? Website, Substack, LinkedIn.
Website,
I'll have
contact form,
okay.
email.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, that
But
sounds
also
perfect.
like, as you've seen, can maybe sometimes be fast on a Substack DM where it can take me 6 days. So
Yeah. Dude, your Substack's awesome. I really like your writing. Your notes are good. Your comments are very great. If you want more Ashley, go look in the Substack links. And we'll talk again soon.
See you so soon. Bye, Dan. Have
Okay,
fun.
bye. You too.